everyone, and welcome to this session on clearing and what it is and what you can expect from clearing, your results day as well, if you're perhaps waiting for, going to be expecting A-level results, or perhaps BTECs or access, or whatever it is that you might be studying at the moment. Or perhaps you studied previously, maybe it was a few years ago, and you're looking to come back to university. So you want to know a little bit about how A-level results day works, how clearing day works. Can you apply before the official clearing deadline as well? So we're just going to go over the kind of in chronological order, I think, of what happens, what to expect as well. And you're also joined tonight with Nicola, who also is the same team as me as well. So we are kind of, I guess, somewhat the face of clearing, where they're answering the phones, helping inquiries on the day as well, and making sure that you get the information that you need. We're also joined by Tom, who's a current DNU student as well. And Tom went through clearing, so what best way to get the information that you need to keep us on track, Tom, because you've gone through it. So
I'll do my best. I will do.
You'll keep us right. Lovely. Any questions that you have as well, do feel free to pop them into the chat. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we want to answer them for you as best as possible. We might not be able to talk about individual cases, so your specific circumstances, but we can really give quite broad feedback. So do say hello. So we've got a couple of people posting saying hello to us, so thank you for that. And yeah, if any questions, we'll try and gear the conversation towards making sure that we do answer them. So I guess firstly, we want to go over what to expect. And A-level results day is actually a little bit earlier this year. Perhaps you're aware of this, perhaps you're not, because you haven't been through it before. But this year, what we call is the official day of clearing, which is A-level results day, is the 10th of August. And Nicola, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what to expect on results day, particularly for those people who are waiting for results, how they go about that, and what they might need to have to hand on the day.
Yeah, of course. So obviously we appreciate that A-level results day can be rather stressful. I think most people who have gone to university will say that it's not really a day that you forget. It is kind of one of those where you're sitting there the night before and you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on the next day. So hopefully this live stream will let you know how to be prepared so that you've got everything that you need to make the best decisions on the day. Now, as you said, obviously, results day this year is a little bit early, so it's typically about a week or so after this date, but at the moment, it is Tuesday, the 10th of August. So if you don't have that date already, do pop it into your diaries. It's a really, really important one. It might be a bit of an emotional day. I remember my day was quite stressful, just because I didn't really know how it was going to go, and obviously we appreciate that some of you guys are going to feel that even more, particularly if you've not sat exams, so you don't really know how to gauge how your results might be going. Obviously, if you've sat exams, you might kind of have a feeling of how you've done in some of your subjects, and perhaps ones you might not have done so well, or perhaps ones that you found quite simple on the day. So do just bear that in mind, that obviously we're there to support you in any way that we can. So any advice that we can give you, we're more than happy to help. Now, our lines open really, really early on results day, so do be prepared for an early start. I think last year our shift started at 5. I think the telephone lines opened at 5 or 6 a.m. So we'll definitely have all that information on our website, so do check that out. But definitely do be prepared for an early start. Do get an early night the night before, just because you never know, you might be on the phones really early depending on your circumstances. So at least that way you're ready to go. Do try and avoid going on holiday or being unable to contact university. So make sure you're somewhere with a laptop and a telephone, obviously, and even Wi-Fi. So that way if you need to send any documents over or anything like that, you're good to go. My top tip would definitely be to have all of your certificates handy. So obviously we appreciate if you're waiting for your A-level results, you might not have your A-level certificates, but you've at least got your GCSE certificates. And for some courses, some of our courses, such as like nursing, midwifery, paramedicine, if you are coming through clearing, we will need to see your GCSE certificates as well. So don't let that be something that holds up the whole process for you. Do make sure that you know how your school or college will be sending out your results. So obviously, typically you would perhaps pop into college in the morning and you'd pick them up in sort of paper format in an envelope. Perhaps this year there might be an online portal that you're logging into. So do make sure you're familiar with how your results are going to be given so that there's no shock on the day. You turn up to university or college, and they say, actually, it's already been emailed to you, and you kind of wasted your time getting there. So definitely do your research. I'm sure your college will let you know in due course. Make sure your Ucas details are to hand. So when you're making your telephone calls in the morning, if you are using clearing, make sure you have your Ucas ID, all of your grades to hand. So that way it's nice and smooth when you're getting through onto the lines, rather than having to go back and find your Ucas ID. It will just speed up the process so much for you. Make sure you've had a look at your results and that you understand what they mean. So obviously for A levels, it's typically quite straightforward. It's sort of graded like an A star, A, B, C, D, etc. But for certain BTEC qualifications, it can be a bit confusing about how the credits work. So if you're unsure, do speak to your college or do speak to us as well. We have seen every qualification, I'm sure. So if you need any advice understanding how your results work, do just give us a call as well. We'll be happy to help you. And how would you say your experience was of results day, Tom? What was your kind of experience? Because yours is quite of a unique situation from what we've gathered before this.
It was, yeah. So I was in the kind of weird group of, I say weird, the more unique group of people that didn't know what they wanted to do in terms of university or apprenticeships or any of that. So it really did come down to the day itself. Real crunch time on results day is actually when I decided that I wanted to go to university for that academic year. So I got my results in the morning, which I was really pleased with, and I decided there and then that I would be going to university, which meant, of course, going through the clearing process that we're going to be discussing today. So yeah, I had an odd experience and quite a hectic one, but yes, but equally it's equipped me with the kind of knowledge to help with this clearing talk today.
I think clearing can be really a different experience for everyone. You know, some people are, you know, they have their firm and their insurance choice, and you know everything's resting on them getting into that university. They, you know, really want to hopefully get all the grades they need. That's the plan. Some people then, like yourself, Tom, decided. I'm guessing you're quite happy with your results. You know, decided that you wanted to go to university. Maybe you saw your friends going to university as well, and thought, well, hang on, I'm coming too. So I think it's very different. Sometimes it's even that people completely change their mind about what they want to study as well. So people just do a complete 180 and completely change their mind about what they want to do during clearing as well. So anytime you have any questions as well, always feel free to contact the university, whether that's by email, by calling them, or through WhatsApp. They're always there to have a chat with you, chat through your qualifications, chat through the possibilities of courses, of what student life is like, for example, as well. You can even speak to students on Unibuddy, and we'll pop some of the links in the chat as well. So we'll put some links in there on how you can get in touch with students and find out what their course is like. Do they like it? Was it what they expected? And what kind of perhaps research did they recommend you to do? So it's good, I think, to have a bit of be prepared for clearing, and I think just be generally prepared for all the different outcomes that can happen on results day. So kind of going on to results day itself. So Nicola mentioned you would need to go into perhaps your sixth form, or perhaps it's that there's an online portal and that's how you will get your results. Universities do get your results a little bit sooner than you do. So we make a decision if you've already made an application to confirm your firm or your insurance choice. Now we will find out what you get, and you might even find out whether you've gotten into the university before you're able to collect your results from your sixth form or your further education college, wherever it is that you're currently attending. Now, once you kind of get those, you can also look on Ucas Track. Now, Ucas Track updates from about 8 o'clock on results day, so on the 10th of August. So we'll pop that in the chat as well. The 10th of August is the key date. Again, as Nicola mentioned, get it in your diary. We're very organised in that sense. We love getting things in our diaries. So make sure you've got that down as a key date. You'll be able to log on to Ucas Track, and it should update. But do bear with it, because there's lots and lots of people signing in. You know, you've got over hundreds of thousands of people logging in to find out what the outcome of their application is. And if things, again, you decide maybe you're not going to your firm or your insurance choice, that's when you really need to go in and collect your results. And just because you get into a university, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did get the results that was required for that offer. So do make sure that you have all the information that you can possibly get to support you with all your decisions when it comes to deciding on the university that you want to go to. So when you go into Ucas track, it will explain what your situation is. Have you been accepted into your firm or your insurance? And this is for anyone who perhaps not like Tom, but has applied through the normal kind of cycle throughout the year, submitted their application, perhaps even by January the 15th. If you don't get into your firm choice, then you need to get checked to see whether you've got into your insurance choice. And if you have met that criteria, you may want to contact your insurance choice university and speak to them about things like speak to them about accommodation, if that applies, making sure that you just feel happy about your start date, how to prepare for this university. It might be that you want to pop along and see if there's a campus tour going so that you can see what the university is like again, look at accommodation again. So call the university, speak to them, and they'll let you know what's going on and what's available to you to make sure that you're happy with your insurance choice. Now, there's something else that you can do, Nikita. I might pop over to you just for releasing. So this is something that students can do. So I'll leave Nikita if you wanted to just touch on the release my place option and what that means.
Yeah, of course. Typically, what will happen is that if you don't meet the criteria for your firm choice, you will go to your insurance choice. So that's how your family insurance choices work on Ucas, and that's why you have an insurance in place, so that if something doesn't quite go to plan and you don't meet the criteria for your firm choice, your application would then fall to your insurance choice, who would have a look at your results, and if they can make you an offer and keep you there, then they will do so. Now, what can happen is that if you're not quite happy with your firm choice, or perhaps you've fallen with your insurance choice and you perhaps want to make some changes, then you can release your place. So you'd need to get into contact with the university who holds your offer, so whether that's your firm choice or insurance choice, and ask them to release you into clearing. Now, if, for instance, you don't meet the criteria in your firm choice or your insurance choice, automatically you will then be released into clearing. So you don't need to get into contact with either of the universities. You can pretty much start to speak to other universities and see if they can make you an offer. What we would advise, and it's a mistake that happens every year, so that's why it's really important that you get your research done with things like these live streams, is to not release yourself from any of your firm or insurance choices until you have spoken with another university who can make you an offer, and if they've sent you out a written offer letter or a verbal offer, so that you know that your position is secured, and that way you can be sure that you can make any changes to Ucas track and that it won't have any long-term consequences for you. Worst case scenario, you make any changes, perhaps you release yourself from your firm or insurance and then speak to another university and with the hopes of going with them, and then they let you know either the course has been filled or perhaps you don't meet their criteria, and then by which point, by releasing yourself, you've lost that place that you already did hold. So definitely don't rush into any changes. You can have a clearing offer made while still holding an offer, and I think that's something that I definitely didn't know about when I was applying for university. So if you're unsure, speak to another university. So say, for instance, you wanted to come to DMU through clearing, speak with our friendly team on the phone, make sure that we can make you an offer, and then release yourself. So you can still hold the offer on Ucas. You don't need to make any changes. You'll have a verbal offer. Perhaps there'll be a deadline. Typically, it will be a few days or a few weeks, depending on how close you are to results day. And then as long as you have made us either your clearing choice on Ucas and then release yourself from your firm or insurance choice, you're okay to proceed onwards with the clearings procedure. But definitely don't make any changes to your Ucas track until you have confirmation that you are able to receive an offer.
I think sometimes as well, and I think this is quite a tricky one, is the misconception that you can switch between your firm and your insurance choice. Or, you can opt out of your firm and you'll automatically go to your insurance. So I think that's quite a common misconception that, if you actually release yourself from your firm, it pops you into clearing.
We had that last year. There was a particular student who I'd spoken with, and I think she'd applied for pharmacy, and we were her insurance choice on Ucas, and she'd been accepted at her firm choice, so obviously that's where she fell. And then without speaking to us, she released herself from her firm choice and then assumed automatically that a place would have been reserved for her, and then got through to us on the phone and said, there's been no changes to my Ucas, what's happening? where is my place? And we sort of had to explain to her that obviously seats are allocated. Something like pharmacy has very limited capacity because there's placements involved and practical sessions, and numbers are very, very tight. It's not something that has flexibility. So she was under the misconception that a place would be reserved for her in her insurance choice. And we kind of had to explain that that isn't the case. Once you've kind of released yourself from your firm, if that's where you've landed, there isn't then also a backup place for you at your insurance, because that's not how the confirmation process has landed for you. So as we say, best case scenario, if you always speak to the university before you make any changes, then something like that won't happen to you.
We do have quite a few questions have come in the comments section. Just to be aware, we can't speak directly about personal circumstances and applications. If you would like to speak about an application further, speak about your qualifications, for example, do get in touch with us on our mainline number. Again, we can pop this in the chat once we finish here, and also the email address. So if you want, however you want to contact us to speak further about either an application that's in the process or making an application for any of our undergraduate and postgraduate courses. So I think we mentioned about clearing and how, you know, it can be lots of people in different circumstances. It can be people who've never considered university, or perhaps always kept it in the back of their mind, but never made the initial application early on in the Ucas application cycle. It can be people who've completely changed their minds about where they want to study or what they want to study. It could be, again, people who perhaps didn't get into their firm or their insurance choice. Lots and lots, thousands of students go through clearing every year, and perhaps see it as an opportunity for change, or just try something new. And I think for Tom, this applies to you. And I just want to know how you kind of went about looking for university places. How did you kind of make a start? Where did you see advertised places, or did you just start calling lots and lots of different universities? You let me know how it kind of worked for you.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because when you go to, you know, sixth form or college or wherever, you are instantly kind of given the standard traditional route, and that is, you know, you go through Ucas at the start of the year, about January time, and you do a personal statement, and you get your references, and you look around all the campuses. And while I did some of that to an extent, it didn't really suit the person or the student like me that wasn't hell-bent on going down that route, that didn't have that idea of their kind of next academic few years in their mind. So for me, I guess it was, at first, I didn't decide exactly on results day. Like, I didn't just flip a coin and go, here I am. I had to, obviously, like you said, put the, you know, some groundwork in to look at some places. So what I did is the week before results day, when this idea of, let's say my results went well, or I got what I wanted. Let's say, you know, university became an option again in my head, which evidently it did. I just went onto Google, and I went through, you know, universities with clearing, perhaps with cities that I'd either been to before, or that some of my friends would go, for example. And DMU was one of various universities that I looked at. And it's there that you can try and get a feel for, you know, you look at the prospectus, maybe the courses that suit you. I think that's probably the most important thing. You know, going to a uni and picking a city that you like, or a town is brilliant. But crucially, it's got to be about your academics. It's got to be about what you want to commit the next 3 years of your life to studying. Yeah, and so for me, so I went and the places that I liked the look of, be it advertising or not, I went to those places. So DMU, of course, in Leicester was one of them, and absolutely loved it. So that's when, for me, it came to results day. I still had questions in my mind, but I thought, no, this is it. I am going to university. I got the grades that I wanted. And yeah, so I now study journalism at DMU. So I'm very, very pleased as a result. And if I could add one more thing, I think what you mentioned just at the end about it being an opportunity, it's that clearing is not, and I'm told about this all the time. I'm always asked, when I tell people, oh, I went through the clearing process, they say, oh, so you didn't get your first choice, did you? And it's like, well, actually, I didn't have a first choice. I chose to go through this process because clearing is not the places that no one wants. It's not just the kind of the old riffraff of courses that haven't been taken. And it's also not just the people that might be disappointed. It's also for the people like me, and I'm sure there's many people either watching or otherwise that are in the exact same boat this year, that just don't really know and want to explore their options and that's why clearing is such a great opportunity, and one that I feel incredibly fortunate to have taken.
So it sounds like it worked out really, really well for you, which is brilliant. Because I think sometimes, I feel like sometimes it's at the moment it's quite difficult to think about maybe where you want to go. And universities have only just opened up for open days, for example. We just had our first open day for a while now on Saturday. That was on campus. So I think there will probably be many people out there considering changing their mind. And I think the message is don't be afraid to do that, to start asking questions, to change your mind, to explore other options. And just because you've made an application doesn't mean you have to stick with that, for example. So yeah, just make sure to always ask questions, explore all your options, and chat to university staff, chat to your tutor if you're at sixth form or FE college at the moment, chat to family. They're all there to obviously offer their advice, but at the end of the day, it has to be the right decision for you. And something as well, just that it's clearing to be aware of, is that you can call as many universities as you wish to find out what courses they have available in clearing, find out what the entry criteria is. It's not necessarily always going to be advertised on websites. It might say that the space is available, but it might not advertise entry criteria. And this is because it can sometimes chop and change throughout the day. Don't hesitate to call just because they don't advertise the entry criteria, because you just never know. It might be that they keep you on a waiting list, and they may lower the entry criteria later, perhaps, and they'll get in touch with you. There's a lot of flexibility on the day. We understand that this year has not been a normal one, and we will try and offer as much flexibility as possible when making offers to applicants. What is handy is if you can have a Ucas ID to hand. If you have applied before, that's perfect. But if you've not applied before, it's absolutely fine. You don't have to have a Ucas ID. You don't have to have a Ucas account. You just give us a call and get that verbal offer and sort out the Ucas side of things. So if you are a UK student, you do need to go through Ucas. And I think as well for EU students, you do need to go through Ucas. Any international students don't need to. They can apply directly for anybody asking in the comments. Usually you can get as many verbal offers as you wish. So if you wanted to call 2 universities, get verbal offers, that's fine. If you want to call 100 universities and get 100, I don't recommend it. It would be very time consuming. But if you wanted to call 100 universities and perhaps get 100 verbal offers, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from doing that. And universities will tell you how long you have to consider that option. Sometimes it can be 24 hours. Sometimes they may offer a bit longer, maybe 48 hours. Just make sure to ask them so you have time to think about it. You don't necessarily always have to rush into it. There may be time for you to sit on the offer, think about it, perhaps sleep on it. Again, discuss with your family and ask about accommodation. It might be that accommodation is guaranteed anyway, so it's not that pressure to jump into the offer if you do want to think about it for a little bit longer. And I believe that is something that we are offering at Montfort University this year. We are guaranteeing accommodation for our first year students. So once you have decided where you want to go, you just need to pop onto Ucas. This is where you do need to have a Ucas account, and you need to add the choice of university and the course that you want to study as your clearing choice. If you don't do that, we will think that you don't want to come to the university. So just make sure you don't forget that part. And there'll be lots and lots of advice on the Ucas website as well, telling you of all the steps that you need to do to make sure you get it right. And again, we'll be here to help you to make sure you follow the process correctly. Nicola, could you tell us a little bit about what you kind of need to get an offer? What might you need to provide to universities? What do we need to know?
Yeah, of course. So if you do find yourself in clearing and you're a bit unsure about what you need to have with you, so would recommend that you have the following information ready so that you can kind of speak with the university and get all your options done as quickly as possible. So obviously we've said it before, but we'll say it again, and it's only because every year there's always students who sometimes are so panicked when they're on the phones, or perhaps things haven't gone to plan on results day, or they're just a bit confused by everything and it's a bit of an overwhelming day. But if you can kind of keep this checklist ready for yourself, perhaps write it down so that you know when and if you do need clearing, that you can tick off everything and make sure it's all at hand. So your UCAS ID is definitely needed. You can have a UCAS clearing number, but this isn't compulsory anymore. You make sure you've got your level 2 results, so that is your GCSE and equivalent. So if you studied functional skills, level 2, that will be equivalent. So make sure you have those results. I'd recommend even having the GCSE or functional skills certificates in front of you so that you know what grades you've achieved. Just because worst case scenario, if you do kind of make a mistake on what results you've achieved, that might be the difference between you being eligible for an offer and not being eligible for an offer. So it's better to make sure that you're giving out accurate information, so that way you don't kind of find out later down the line that in fact actually you don't quite meet the criteria because you'd gotten your grades wrong or something like that. Make sure you have your level 3 qualification results. So that would be your A levels, your BTECs, or equivalent qualifications. So make sure you've got the full subjects you've studied and the grades that you've achieved. Obviously for A levels it's quite simple because it's sort of 3 or 4 subjects and the grades you've achieved, but for BTECs it can be a bit more complex. So most years we'll have students on the phone who aren't quite sure on the wordings of their qualifications, and it might sound as though we're being a bit pedantic on the lines, but sometimes one word here or there can mean the difference between 40, 50 UCAS points in terms of what the qualifications are worth. So it's best to make sure you're accurate in terms of the full qualification name that you hold, so that when you give us a call on results day, we can make sure that we're giving you offers based on the correct information, rather than you sending us in your certificates a few days later and us realising actually this doesn't add up to what you let us know you had. Unfortunately, we can't hold your offer. That would be obviously worst case scenario, and it would be unfair to kind of give you an offer based on information that's incorrect. So the best thing that you can really do is to make sure you've got all the information at hand. Do make sure you have a personal statement ready. Obviously, we do appreciate that things might change on results day. So if the admissions team do require an updated personal statement, they will let you know. You might find that for certain courses, you will need to have an interview. Now that's more for kind of health-based courses, so something like pharmacy, foundation year pharmacy, one of our nursing courses, midwifery, those types of courses, they will have an interview even if you come through clearing. So do make sure you have some availability in a few days leading up to the clearing process, because if you booked a holiday the day after clearing, you'll soon find that it's going to be a bit of a nightmare trying to organise your interview if you're sunning it up in Spain, for example. So do kind of keep that in mind, just in case you are thinking of those types of courses. What else would you need? Okay, so what will happen is if you give us a call on results day, or even before then, so we are in early clearing at the moment, so you can, believe it or not, have offers made at the moment. Our friendly staff will give you a verbal offer on the phone if you do meet our criteria. Now, what will typically happen is once you've had that verbal offer, we will send out an offer letter to your email address, so do check your spam and junk folders because unfortunately they can sometimes end up in there. And your offer letter will state the conditions of your offer. Now, that might be academic, so that will be us seeing proof of your qualifications. So as we said, your GCSE and A-level and equivalent certificates. It might be that we require you to complete a DBS or an occupational health check. It really does depend on the course that you're applying for. And once these conditions have been met, you would then have an unconditional offer, which essentially means that your place is confirmed, it is guaranteed, you're good to go. But do make sure you read through the offer letter, because every year we always get applicants who are kind of so overwhelmed, perhaps so excited on the day, a bit of adrenaline's pumping, and they don't read through the offer letter, and they kind of think, okay, great, I've got my offer, I'm good to go on the phone, and they forget actually you do need to add us as your clearing choice on Ucas track. And typically your offer letter will let you know how long your verbal offer is valid for. Normally on results day it'll be about 24 hours, because obviously we don't want you to rush into a decision, it's an important choice. So you have that 24-hour window to add us as your clearing choice on Ucas Extra. Now, do bear in mind, obviously, any changes that you make on your Ucas track are a bit more complicated to reverse once you've added them, which is why it's important to comply with the 24-hour deadline, but also bear in mind that places are filled on a first-come, first-served basis typically. So say, for instance, on one day, quite a few offers have been made, and everyone's got a 24-hour deadline. If it's something that has limited places, like paramedicine, for instance, it is filled on a first-come, first-served basis. So even if you have a verbal offer, if, for instance, something changes in the meanwhile and the course has been filled, that is unfortunately the case. So that's why we recommend that you do your research at this early stage. Make sure you kind of have like a plan A through to F perhaps. So that way, if anything does change on results day, you're prepared, you're making informed decisions, because unfortunately on the day, because it's all kind of a bit overwhelming, you can perhaps rush into a decision and then regret it later down the line. And that's obviously worst case scenario. So as long as you're prepared, you've got all the information that you need, you've done your research, that's pretty much all you should need to make sure that you're making an informed decision on the day.
Thanks, Nicola. So lots of information for you there. And I think I just want to pass over to Tom again, just to kind of get your insights of kind of how it worked. Did you have to write a personal statement? Did you have a mini interview? Did you perhaps get a chance to speak to an academic within journalism if you had any questions? And I think finally, if we can remember all this, if I can remember what I've said, and finally, perhaps how you kind of started preparing for university as well, because I imagine you needed to then think about where you wanted to live, because it would have been a bit hard to commute from Essex to Leicester. So kind of how you went about all of that.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. I think so I'll start with obviously that once I'd made the decision to go to uni, I did so it was getting on the phones with quite a few universities. DMU was not the only one that I called, like you, Nicola, was saying about having these different options and obviously not calling 100, but having a few in mind. It all became very quite surreal. It was very thick and fast, but I think crucially it's about making sure you had all that information on you. That was something that, I was lucky enough with my Ucas stuff. I'd done some of it already. Like I had my Ucas number and that kind of stuff. So I was prepared. I wasn't scrambling around for notes while being on the phone to various universities. But yeah, so I did have to write a personal statement. And I'd had one pretty much pre-prepared, but it was more just tailoring it for the course that I wanted to do. So that was all part of the Ucas process. And to be honest, I can't fault the clearing lines, really any of them that I spoke to, but DMU in particular were fantastic. I was they were very sympathetic to the case that I was presenting, in the sense that I wasn't one of the people that we mentioned earlier that had just not got the grades they wanted or disappointment. I was trying to explain that I'd made this decision on a little bit of a whim. And from then, so once we got all the Ucas stuff, all the kind of the gritty details of it, I was put through to the journalism department. And I got to speak to a couple of the tutors there. At first, it was more like general questions, just making sure that I'd kind of was applying for the right course, and I didn't mean, media production or something along those lines. And then the next day, I believe, it was a day for the interview. So I had a phone interview. So all the way back from here in Essex, I got to talk to the tutor again, or a different one. And yeah, just asked me a couple of questions, and it was nothing intense. It was, it was just making sure that it wasn't just right for the university to have me. That also this kind of crazy last minute decision wasn't just that it was actually something thought out. I believe the last question, therefore, was accommodation. Finally got there. Yeah, accommodation was a big one, but equally that was a draw of DMU before I'd applied through clearing, was that I think I'd seen on a TV or a web advert somewhere that accommodation would be guaranteed for first years. So for somebody going through clearing, where many of us are, a little bit unsure, and there's a lot of kind of questions around this hectic moment, or this process that people aren't too familiar with, getting that guaranteed first year accommodation was a really big thing, and an important step, especially when you're moving away from home. And yeah, so from there, so I'd done all the Ucas stuff. I had my interview and passed, thank God. And then getting the accommodation sorted was equally as easy as the rest of the clearing process. I had lots of questions about the accommodation. It was my first time moving away from home, as it is for a lot of people. And the DMU staff were so helpful in that process. So yeah, it was a crazy, because obviously results day was normal for me, if I can use that word. It was back in 2019. So that was at the end or middle to end of August, and then obviously term was starting at the end of September. So that 5 weeks was blur. Getting everything sorted, packing up all of this, and yeah, going to Leicester. But honestly, the clearing lines were fantastic. The staff were brilliant, and I'm happy that now I can actually kind of give back a little bit and to weird find myself 2 years later, be talking about the process that I went through is really quite amazing. So yeah, definitely recommend it. But crucially, listening to all the information we've said, getting your information, having it all on you, and then the process really is a breeze.
I think as well, just as a quick add-on to that, Tom, if you don't mind, as you are the student, we do have a question. What is the best thing about DMU? Put you on the spot.
If I could whittle it down to one. Yeah, see, I'm a journalist. I usually ask the questions. I'm not usually on this side. I'd say the best thing, I think it probably comes down to my favorite thing about DMU, which is, I guess, the sense of community, but how that provides opportunity. I think that, I guess it's almost two things in one. Is that cheating? I'm not sure. But it's so DMU is right in the city centre. So it's right in the heart of Leicester, which I really liked, which means I'm really in touch with the city itself. It's about, the culture of the city, the different people that are there, the history as well. I love all of that. But equally, as a result of being at DMU, and I guess because of the ties that it's got to the city, I've been given so many fantastic opportunities as a result of going there. And if I can put a noteworthy one out there, if any football fans are listening, I got to, because the DMU are partnered with Leicester City Football Club, I was incredibly lucky to get to go to the FA Cup final when Leicester played Chelsea not too long ago. And there's only 6,000 fans of each there, and it was a really amazing experience. And I would never have had that if I hadn't put myself out there by being at DMU and I guess to link it back, going through clearing. So it was amazing to do that. But there's so much you can get involved with, the societies, like I said, the wider stuff within the community. It's just a great, and that's probably my favorite thing about DMU. It's that sense of community, but also the opportunity that provides as well.
Oh, lovely. No, I think that's something we all feel, staff and students, I think, as well. But thank you so much, Sue, for that question. Really appreciate that. I think maybe to finish on, Nikita, could you perhaps just touch upon early clearing, because that's something that started now, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And again, I'm preaching now, but I didn't know this information when I was in your guys' position. So I didn't actually understand what early clearing was. I don't think many students really do unless you kind of do your research. So if you are watching this live stream, you're in a good position, because I definitely didn't know about it when I was applying for uni. So early clearing has opened as this week. So the clearing number that we popped in the comment section, you can call our team on that number. I'll perhaps be one of the people on the lines that you might get through to. Essentially what it means is that if you have changed your mind about the university that you're going to, so say for instance you are changing your mind on your course or about where you're studying, perhaps you might hold an offer on Ucas already, and you want to kind of make sure that you're prepared and you want to get that offer in early, you can actually get an offer made through clearing at the moment. Now, just to manage expectations, some of our courses have been filled. There's a few of our very popular courses that have very limited spaces available, particularly the healthcare courses that have been filled already. Unfortunately, with number controls, because of the placements, etc. involved, there are quite limited spaces on certain courses. So what you can do is you can speak with our team, give us a call on the clearing number that I mentioned, and we can talk you through any options. So if we are able to make you an offer, we can do so. Even if you're still waiting on predicted results, they don't have to be definitive. So you don't have to have already sat your A-levels or your BTECs, etc. You can still give us a call, and our team can advise you further and perhaps make you an offer. So you might even be in Tom's position where you've not even applied for university at the moment. Clearing's still available for yourself as well. If you're in that kind of situation, you can give us a call, so that way, when it comes to results day, you're not kind of in like a bit of a deer in headlights kind of moment. You've got to figure out what your options are. You're armed with the information that you need because you've already got that offer there for you. So you can add it as your clearing choice already. So do just bear that in mind. Give us a call and we can talk you through any options. As Faye mentioned earlier, some of our courses might be entering into a sort of waitlist scenario. What that will essentially mean is that we will take all of your details, the qualifications that you hold, we'll pop you onto the waiting list for the course. And then if on results day, if anything does change, because obviously there might be an instance where some students don't quite meet the criteria that they're expected, we might find that some places do sort of free up. And in that instance, our admissions team will look through the sort of waiting list and try and make any offers where they can, or perhaps I would even give you a call and suggest any alternative courses that you might be a good fit for based on the information that you provided us. So definitely do let us know if there's any way that we can help, even if you just need a bit of advice about how clearing works. Perhaps you have a few specific questions and you just want to know a bit more information about your options with clearing. Give us a call, and our clearing team and the inquiry team will be happy to help.
And I think finally, we just have one more question come in from Mimi about are we going to be more lenient this year due to COVID? So I'd say there definitely is flexibility there. Do again get in touch with us, speak about your options, speak about the courses, and what our entry criteria is in clearing. We completely understand that it's been a very, very different teaching experience. It's students have perhaps had to isolate as well, and it's probably been very, very disruptive to your learning environment, and to the best of obviously school's abilities as well. Everybody's tried their best, but we completely understand that it perhaps has had an impact on your learning, perhaps not even just at school, but actually going out and getting work experience, for example, and building up on your kind of transferable skills, which would be helpful towards a course. So we completely understand that. All we can say is get in touch with us. We'll be as flexible as possible with the entry criteria, with any kind of specifications around whether it's qualifications or work experience. We'll chat through that with you as well. And yeah, just don't hesitate to get in touch with us. I think that's pretty much the end of this evening's session. Thank you to Nicola, lots of really useful information there. And Tom, your very positive experience of clearing has been very, very insightful. And I think probably some food for thought for other people out there as well, that it can be a really positive experience, and there's lots of help and support out there to help you through this kind of I guess it's a very different kind of your education journey, going on to the next step at university as well. It can be quite scary, moving on to the next step, particularly if you're moving away from home. Perhaps some people just can't wait, looking forward to moving away from home. So everybody's different. And again, just get in touch with us if you have any questions. I've put the contact number in the chat, but I'll just bring it up again. If you would like to get in touch with us, this is our clearing number, and we can help you further with any inquiries. But other than that, thank you very much everyone for tuning in, for listening, and for your questions as well. We do have a couple of other sessions taking place over the next few weeks, so do check them out. I'll pop the link in the chat, and please do join us for the next session.